Coming up, a Sad Styles production.
Get into it.
Andrew, we got a big problem on our hands.
Oh, no, what?
Yeah, okay, so listen, you know how you and I sit across the room from one another all the time and we talk and there's the microphones and we're recording?
Yeah.
Well, so I've been releasing this to the public for like 5-6 years.
You've been releasing our conversations to the public?
Yeah, I know, and I know you're very personal on this and you tell all your secrets. Oh, God, you should have told me that before.
No, yeah, I should have. You should have told me you were recording me.
But you didn't say with privilege before saying everything, so now I can release it to everybody.
Well, being a litigious person, you got me.
Yes,
well done.
I got one away. Well, we made a big mistake.
Okay.
About a month ago, we opened up the proverbial mailbag and we started to answer some of the questions that the people who have been consuming this podcast were sending us.
Yes, right.
I thought that we'd be done with it. I thought there were no more questions in the world to be asked.
Absolutely.
But it turns out our listeners love to hear themselves talk and they love to hear us say their names.
Wait, we got more mail because we did a mail episode?
Yeah, you would think they'd be like, that's it. Those are all my questions.
Chick, done. All right, sounds good.
Could you imagine a school system in which one person asks a question, the teacher answers it, and then another person hears that and thinks, I have a question too?
I think this is a terrible system. So we should not reward these people by answering more mail.
We should never reward these people by answering more mail. That said,
oh no,
this mailbag is so heavy, and I got to get rid of some of the envelopes.
We're doing another mail episode?
I think we got to do another mailbag episode. So I'm going to just reach in here, grab a couple questions, and we're going to answer them right after the break this week on the Retrograde Podcast.
We love your mail. Yeah, I didn't believe it either. And welcome to the Retrograde
Video Game Podcast, where this week we finally listened to our listeners.
Oh, ironic. My name's Andrew Baskin. With me, as always, is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself.
Mikey, Carl Malone, Aaron Worth.
Right, Carl Malone, yes. Not a figure you really want to talk too much about, but yeah.
Why?
He impregnated a 13-year-old.
Why do you think I'm referencing
Yeah, it's like you find out later, you're like, his nickname was the Mailman? Oh, that works so well.
I thought so. No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Carl Malone, famously good guy.
I did not know that. John Stockton kind of looks like a 13-year-old.
Okay.
So.
Oh, yeah.
Is that why they worked
They
so
were in
well
love,
together?
yeah. They worked on and off the court. Also, John Stockton, man, what happened to that dude? John Stockton, not a great guy either.
Really? What did he do?
He's more of like a, January 6th guy.
Oh.
Yeah, just going to say that generally, and whatever that means to you, yes.
Then that is typically, so I like the idea that like he was way back and he just like drove to the lane. Like he saw a pathway through all the protesters and he did a triple step all the way through to Nancy Pelosi's office.
I like the idea too that somebody like dropped their, I don't know, burning Confederate flag or something like that. And he's like, you got it. And you just hucks it right back to him. The guy's like, wow, perfect. Right in my hand. Amazing.
Yeah. Well, look, Andrew,
good start.
I'm excited this week to talk about video games. Would you play a video game? Do you think there is ever going to be a video game about the storming of the Capitol?
Oh, Activision with Call of Duty was like, okay, wait. And then just like all of a sudden there was like we need all hands meeting. We need to design this.
They're like no Russian, but with
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Exactly.
It's like we know we're just being a little aggressive about it. The thing is, it also would equate to huge sales.
Well, from probably both sides of the base. One who's playing it ironically, and the other who is definitely not playing it.
Do you think that's going to be a new horde mode? You could be the cops, or like a limited number of cops, or the rioters,
and then at the end of each wave, you get like the guy with the elk horns or whatever coming. He's like the boss that comes.
Yeah, the
in
mystic or whatever he called himself. Yeah,
did he really?
Yeah.
He's probably a good guy.
Oh yeah. He's definitely stable.
Carl Malone and John Stockton.
I'd love to hear his opinions on things. That wouldn't be wild at all.
That'd be awesome. No, I'd love to hear our listeners' opinions on things, and we will get to some listener questions. As we talked about in the intro, just doing one episode on listener questions, which had been piling up for quite a while, initiated a groundswell of new questions coming in, and we love the support. We love to hear from the listeners. If you hear anything that you were going to ask, great. You don't need to send us anything, but if there's anything we haven't addressed, you can feel free to send us your own questions at the retrogradepodcast@gmail.com or hit us up at any of our social media accounts. Before we get to the questions, Andrew.
Yep.
I'm not sure. I know you've been a busy boy.
I've been a busy boy.
I have been consumed with a new video game.
Oh.
This video game, it's available on PlayStation Plus. It's also available, I think it's from 2021 initially as like early access on Steam, 2022 probably official release, but it's called Inscription.
Okay.
It's a card deck building game, which is similar in some way to Slay the Spire. I've talked about Slay the Spire before on the podcast before. The difference is Inscription starts out and I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to ruin too much,
Okay.
but it starts out as you're literally like you know how we always make fun of when we open up a new game and it's like there's new game, continue, settings,
Yes.
whatever. You can't click new game. You have to click continue. And I'm just like, the fuck is this
What the
about? I
hell?
love it. So
Yeah.
already I'm like, interesting.
Yeah.
You click continue and you hear like a voice from behind the screen. Like as though the person playing the game, as though you are saying like, all right, let's see what this game's all about. So you're like, wait, what is
Whoa.
happening? So already you're kind of like a couple steps removed from
Yeah.
the narrative. The screen opens up and you're at a table and it's just dark in front of you, and then out of the darkness, these like two white eyes, like Aku from Samuel.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Samuel L. Jack, Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
Open up, and you're basically playing this card game, a never-ending card game against this guy who's your captor, and he sometimes lets you get up from the table to like grab things, but if you lose, he like throws you into a room and like takes a picture of you, and it's like this big,
God.
and you die and you have to build your deck over again. But that's, I thought, and I was happy with that being the entire game.
Yeah.
The deck building element of it and the actual game you play is super intriguing. For someone like me who's like kind of a dummy when it comes to deck building, like
Okay.
I'm not going to play Magic. I don't understand all of the overarching rules of something too complex. It simplifies it in a way that still makes it fun. I would have been totally fine with that being the entire game. When you beat that game, this is all I'm going to say, the game becomes something so much more, in almost like a Doki Doki Literature Club kind of thing.
Okay.
All of a sudden, the game completely opens up and the mechanics change, the deck building changes, the way you move around the game changes, the interaction with the narrative changes. And to this point, I'm about 15 hours in. I'm on Act 3 of the game. And I'm like totally consumed by it, both in terms of the mechanics of the deck building and in terms of story, which I never thought I would say when it came to like playing a deck building game. It's a ton of fun.
Wow, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
So it's on PlayStation now?
It's on PlayStation Plus,
sorry.
which it was all rolled into one. It's fine, and it's available for free if you're a subscriber there. I downloaded it on PlayStation Plus. I played it a little bit, and I was like, "This is really good." I feel like it would be a perfect handheld game, so I got it on my Steam Deck.
Oh.
If you're out there and you haven't played this game and you're considering playing it either on a Steam Deck or another console, I would recommend not getting it on the Steam Deck just because it is playing a PC game when you're playing on your Steam Deck. So the controls are mouse and keyboard. So you have to kind of like scroll over to select cards. Whereas when I was playing it on the PlayStation, it was very clicky and intuitive in terms of where you're looking and cards you're selecting and ringing the bell to end a turn and all that stuff was much better suited. I know it's also on the Switch. So the Switch, if you're looking for it in a handheld mode, that might be the best way to do it. But if not, man, what a fucking gem of a game.
Inscription.
Oh,
wow. Okay, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want to find out what that twist is.
So do I.
Okay.
Well, I mean, beyond the one that I'm at.
okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you think there's more than one?
It just keeps on going. Yeah. And honestly, like I've heard that some people have spent like 25 hours with this game.
Wow.
I've also heard that some people have beat it in 12, which is crazy because I'm 15 hours in and I don't think I'm close to the ending, but I'm also just a dummy. So it's
you take your time with games, though.
I do take my time with games, and sometimes so much time that I never end up completing the games.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Well, you said it with your eyes, Andrew.
I did.
And that's all I need.
You knew what was going up in this old noggin.
No, have you decided yet whether you're going to indulge in Madden when it comes out? Is this still on the horizon?
Yeah,
for
the
you?
answer is yes. I'm not proud.
No.
Like I know it's a broken game, but it did that thing. God, it's like taking back Icon Next. It's like I've changed, and you're like, yeah, okay, sure. And then they're 2 weeks back. You're like, nope.
I like that you're now talking about taking back X's like a couple weeks after getting married.
Yeah, well, it's on the mind, you know.
Doors are open.
Number. Yeah, call the number on the bottom here. That they wanted to make changes to the franchise, they said, and so we'll see if those are actually good or not.
Yeah.
The franchise is what I play mostly.
Sure.
They've gone back to like you can relocate teams or change uniforms and things like that. They've also revamped like training camp and the way you trade. Like used to be only trade three things. Like so it could be 3 players or players draft picks, but 3 slots, right? And now they've expanded to 6. And you're like, yeah, why wouldn't it be 12? Like if it's real, then
that's something that I've always found weird about the franchise mode in most sports games, and it could be because I've never really gotten into a franchise mode like be a pro mode sort of thing for anything other than the NHL franchise.
Yeah.
I know FIFA does a good job at it, but like the number of dialogue options you have for interviews or the number of commitments or all that stuff, I'm like, if you're gonna have a story, let me play the story, like let me live it a little bit more. It feels like instead of giving me the option to make a commitment to the press once every 10 games and it's like the same sort of thing, like make that a much more active part of it. Give me, instead of like you said 4 options, give me 12.
Yeah, like 2K does it too, and you get 3. And you're like, well, okay. So it's usually like good, bad, or non-committal. And you're like, okay, well,
right.
What a simple game this is, Whereas like 5 years ago, I was like, whoa, talk to the press. But yeah, so they're changing some stuff in franchise, so I'll definitely be, paying my $80 or something like that. So.
Well, keep us posted. When does Madden come out again?
August 14th.
August 14th. That's always, so we're very close to that actually. Well, it's always a sports franchise that kind of comes and goes for me. It's like one of the few that I just have no understanding of like when it comes out and all that. Because I also don't watch football all that much, so it just kind of like comes and goes, and I never really know when. It's
famously used to be called Madden Day, but I think they've realized like it used to be like a holiday, and oh my God, Madden's coming up. But it's definitely been diminished in the last couple of years. Like I think people are finally really tired of the game. And so hopefully that encourages them to make bigger changes or, to improve
things. They
will,
because clearly the people who used to support the game are now boycotting it and not buying it because they're not making very many changes to it. And as long as people keep doing that, the standing in solidarity with the writers and the actors, they're putting their controllers down and they're saying, I will not buy this because you will not commit. Even if, say, Madden comes out and says we're putting your favorite player on the cover, they will definitely not buy it.
I think that'd be really good of people to do that.
Yeah.
You need to show them that this will not be tolerated.
No, of course not.
Also, it's very adorable that this clear that you never played Madden, that you think there are writers working on this game. Like, good God.
No, I'm not saying, I'm saying you're striking in solidarity with other people.
So like abstinence,
yes.
We're just going to void the game.
Right.
To help somehow the striking WGA members.
Well, I mean, just to show them that you can also give up things that you like.
Oh, sure. Like Lent. Yeah.
Like Lent. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What are you giving up for the writer's strike?
Oh, what am I giving up? I'm giving up, I'm giving up my parents' Netflix password so I can buy my own.
Oh, that's good. Wait, so you're going to give money to Netflix?
I've been mooching off of my parents for so long.
Right.
I'm giving that up. And I'm just going to buy my own account.
I swear to God, we are the only, like my wife and I, my player one and I are the only people that have our accounts and our parents.
No, that's me as well.
What the fuck is that all about? I'm supposed to want to be leeching off of them. They're leeching off of us.
I know. That's not how the world works.
No.
I have Crave, which is the Canadian version of like HBO Max, essentially.
And Max.
Oh, just Max.
Yes,
Sorry.
Yes.
Oh. It's my Crave account, my Disney Plus account, my Netflix account, and my entire family just kind of like uses them all.
Yeah.
How does this work?
Every Christmas we get together, I'm like, hey, we should figure out how we could exchange money, or maybe you have one, I have one, we all trade.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Nothing ever happens because they're all just mooches.
Because they're all mooches. Because they're not giving it up for Lent.
Yes. Which of course happens around Christmas.
Yeah. I don't know that.
No, it's around
I don't know that.
Easter time.
I will I gave up looking at naked people.
Okay.
Like nudity.
What a weird way to say that, eh? You sound like a voyeur. You said like stop climbing trees with binoculars, you little perv. Man, oh man. I stopped looking at naked people. What the hell?
I stopped looking at naked people through screens, through pictures,
through windows,
window screens.
The cameras that I put in washrooms.
That's another screen.
Yeah, that's a screen.
For 40 days back then. I didn't understand what Lent was. It was around the time Josh Hartnett did it on Full Display, and I was like, "This is a thing that curries us favor with God."
Yeah,
and I was like, "I'm going to do it."
Yeah,
and then
how long did you last?
40 days.
You did it,
kind of.
Okay.
Because I was getting my hair cut, and there was this barber that we used to go to, this like just an old man barber. You just go and you know the kind of person you make an appointment and you're sitting there for like 45 minutes, but like not in the good way before. And
what's the point of an appointment then?
Yes, exactly. So I was sitting in the chair, and he always had these postcards that were from all around the world, and some of them were of like naked women.
Cool.
So he went to the bathroom during one of my haircuts, and I got up and I was like, I have no control over the fact that there's like a naked postcard there. So I just started like flipping through the things on the mirror. And so I didn't last 40 days quite. But in my mind, God was okay with it because it was kind of like, he's like, I get it. Look, I get it.
God obviously is Josh Hartnett in this situation.
Yes, exactly.
So you called him and you're like, Josh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The postcards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I said sorry. By the way, Josh Hartnett gets raped in that movie. And we don't talk about it.
What?
Yeah. Have you seen 40 Days and 40 Nights?
I might have forgotten I know he gives up sex.
Yeah. And in the end, he thinks he's having a wet dream, but I mean, he's not like consciously like, I'm having a wet dream.
Yeah.
But like he's having a wet dream.
So wet.
And when he wakes up, the person who's like trying to seduce him is on top of him. And she gets up and she's like, gotcha.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is the plot of that movie?
No one talks about how fucked up that is.
It is so funny that's like 90s, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just so funny in like the 25 years since that movie has come out that like in the 90s we'd have been like, that's awesome. I hope that happens to me. Like I'm also 13 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hope some woman just, takes advantage of me. And now 25 years later, we're like, oh my God, he was raped.
He was
that
absolutely
not
raped.
good.
And his girlfriend broke up with him because of it.
Wow, that's victim blaming. What is this? Oh my God, what does this world come to? And then Josh Hartnett had to go away for a bit so we could all, reflect on that. And now he's back
in Oppenheimer.
He's back.
Yeah, Oppenheimer style.
Yep.
Okay, so that's enough about 40 Days and 40 Nights. Let's get
video game for 40 days, 40 nights.
Let's get to some listener questions, Andrew.
Okay, let's do it.
So we continued off. We had some great questions last time. Went back to our email address, and you motherfuckers just wouldn't stop sending us messages. Look, we're kind of pulling some from the top of the list as well. So if you sent some earlier, there's some that are going to skip the line just because they kind of fit with some of the conversations we've been having recently.
Sure.
So one question here. This is Dan. He didn't specify where he's from. So Dan from who knows where. Dan says, like Mikey, I'm great at starting, terrible at finishing. But I'm curious to see if Mikey and Andrew think there's actually anything wrong with that as long as I feel like I'm enjoying the process. In other words, is gaming more about playing or more about progressing? I'll take my answer off the air. Thanks, Dan.
Very good, Dan.
Very good, Dan. This is a great conversation because you make fun of me all the time.
I do.
You victim blame me all the time.
You're the victim.
I'm the victim.
Oh
here.
my God.
I'm the victim. And you're blaming me. So you're victim blaming.
Yeah, sure.
All the time for starting but not finishing games.
Yeah.
Start with this. Are you doing that because you think that I'm doing something wrong in the way that I am participating in gameplay?
Sure.
Or is this something that you are okay with me doing?
The personal touch is so weird. Thanks, Dan. I would say, as much as it kills me to say this, I believe it's more about the playing than it is the finishing. I think, to be honest, of all the mediums like books or movies or TV, we can throw it for a second. Those you do have to finish. There is an end to them.
Yeah.
And you go like, and now that's a complete story and I've seen the whole thing and I can go, oh, that's interesting. I reflect. Video games are about playing. You know what I mean? And usually most games don't end with like, it's done.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, look at we've learned so much. You know what I mean? So in that way, it is about the progress. It is about the playing and it isn't about the finishing. Now, if you want to get the whole experience, to really have, the most concrete opinion on something, I would say finishing is important, but I don't think it's essential.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll counterpoint to what you're saying about like there not being a moment in video games. Like they often try to do that, but I also argue that it's often not satisfying.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And I think that kind of like what you're saying, something that differentiates the medium of gaming is the act of play. And you don't really read a book for specific passages and you're like, you know what, I'm good. Like reading a book, inherent to a book, there is a story. I argue kind of the same thing with TV shows and movies. You were going to say we'll get back to TV shows.
Yeah.
I'm assuming what you're going to say is if there are 8 seasons of a TV show and you're good with 4, to me, I'm like, I got what I came here for. I'm
totally.
Fine. Yeah.
Also, because it extends such a long period of time, both to make and to consume, though the quality sometimes wanes. So like a season 2 is incredible, but season 4 is different. There's different actors, there's different writers. You're like, well, it's not the same show.
Yeah.
And that in that point, I would agree that I think it's more about like, get through the good parts, I guess.
For sure.
Where it's not like, Grey's Anatomy season 21. I'm like, oh, that's really the one,
When you're talking about quality wanes, Damon?
Yeah, I would say Damon probably falls into quality wanes.
Yeah. Who's in lack of quality wanes?
Marlon. No, Marlon's good. No, Marlon's good. I'm trying to think of it. I've forgotten all the untalented ones.
There are so many wanes.
Felt like there were 30 at a time. And you're just like, And then there's still like there's a few of them still around.
Are the
Okay.
Are the Waynes the O'Doyles of Hollywood?
That's a really good point. I'm really glad you brought that up. Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about a lot recently.
I'll take my question off.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
One thing I'll say about this to kind of compare mediums, I guess, and the act of play is like you can't. I think back to when I'm a kid. You can't beat action figures, but you experience action figures, and having experienced them, I'm like, good. I'm playing with them. I've had my time playing with them, and I think especially for some games, there is an element of play like that where I'm just like, I've been playing with this game. The story, if it ends, I don't know. I can almost just look up what that is, and yes, there's something to be said about the process of teasing out the story and being along for the ride. Yeah. And if you don't do that in a game like BioShock, do you miss out on the big reveal, which is like tantamount to our appreciation of that game?
Which I would say yes.
Yes.
But then this is also the same medium that has games that don't have endings.
That's true.
There are games you can't beat.
Tetris.
Like, Fortnite. Yeah.
Right.
Like that's
Twisted Metal because you don't want to because it sucks.
I keep falling asleep. It's just so narcoleptic. It's amazing. But yeah, like there are games. So in that way, there's no books that don't end. You know what I mean? Grey's Anatomy's still going, so we'll see about that. You know, that might go forever. But like everything else has an ending. Some games don't, so it's really hard to treat them all as one. Yeah. Because you're right, BioShock. You need to finish that to really enjoy the game.
And
I shouldn't say that. Sorry. You can enjoy the game.
There's a level of appreciation that transcends mechanical appreciation for the game that you only get when you've hit that point. And the act of playing the game and being told what to do and reciprocating is exactly what that twist is about. So if you look it up on YouTube, you'll think it's cool in concept, but when you've been subservient to the person the entire time, to Atlas, and you're finding out what's actually going on in BioShock, that's a massive moment. So there is a risk inherent to my complacency with not requiring myself to finish games. I think about something like Death Stranding. I put 10 hours into that, and I was like, I think I'm good. I think mechanically I understand what this is about. It's not for me. The story's not getting me. So I was like, I've had my share. I don't need to beat this game. I'm just going to let this one go.
Yeah.
What if I didn't go back to Death Stranding? Because that is one of my favorite games of all time. And it was very close to not being something that I wanted to play. Yeah. That I was just like, I'm good with this. I never would have fully understood what that game was actually about had I not gone back and played it. So
does that make you scared for other games though?
So my next question was what Death Stranding like games are out there? If I'd only past a certain point, would I have had an appreciation for it? I think about that with Disco Elysium all the time. And that's why I've gone back to that game 6 or 7 times to try to beat it. And I do think at some point I will, because I keep playing from the same save state. And I'm probably about 12 or 13 hours in. So I've only got 12 or 13 hours more.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Maybe I'll never beat it. Yeah. Do you have any games like that you're like, I should have stuck with it?
That's a good question. I do think about Death Stranding all the time, by the way. Like, I do think about it because I know you like it, and a lot of people that I really respect love it. Yeah. So I kind of, other people I really respect.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. I 100% I knew that.
I was so afraid that you didn't pick
Andrew,
up on that.
Don't worry about that. I know my place. I know.
Where is your place?
Below you.
Okay.
You know?
Oh, no, I don't think about it like that.
No, I mean, I know that this is, the way you want everyone to think of me, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's actually, no, you nailed it. Good. Yeah.
So what do these people you respect say about Death Stranding?
They love it. So you have a very similar opinion.
I do too. Yeah.
I know.
Weird.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And I always think I missed out on that.
Yeah.
For what reason, I'm not really too sure. I was just it didn't hook me like I think it hooked other people.
Right.
And so, yeah, I would say that one for sure. I probably can think of more, but yeah, that one for sure.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I think a lot of people are in that boat about Death Stranding specifically. Great, another good question.
Thanks,
there from Dan. Let's get to another one. Yeah, this one is kind of just a bit more generic, and actually maybe we can talk a little bit about Madden and the answer potentially. Just kind of assuming what your answer is going to be. Okay. Devin L says if you could only play one type of game for the rest of your life, what would it be? Very down the middle question. Not that I don't appreciate it. It's a talking point. I've heard it before, and I'm curious, just as a genre specific person, what you would say about that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think my answer is boring though. Yes, I think it would be sports.
Yeah,
because there's a replayability inside of that is what its inherent quality is. You do the same thing over and over again. That's the fun part.
Just like playing sports in real life.
Yes, exactly. The outcomes could be wildly different.
You lose once and you keep losing and losing and losing and losing. It's like you playing retro video games.
I'm definitely on a cold streak right now.
I'm definitely on a cold streak. Year and a half cold streak.
Okay. Whoa, okay.
I'm just saying.
Wow.
It's weird that you don't respect the person who just keeps beating you.
The worst part is I hate when you wrap it up in honesty, because then there's nothing I can do. You're just like, you keep losing. I'm like, I do keep losing.
Yeah.
Fuck me. I don't know what to tell you.
I would hate to be in your position.
And it was so opposite in the beginning.
I
used
so
to kill
opposite.
you.
Yeah.
And now it's like just walking. You're walking me up and down.
I was playing the long game, Andrew.
Yeah. You're like, we start playing for money when you were down like 30-0
I was pool sharking you.
That's sandbagging me.
Sandbagging. Or pool sharking.
Or pool sharking. You know, when you throw a shark into your friend's pool, you pool shark them. Their greatest nightmares come to life.
Except the shark dies in like an hour because of the chlorine, and then they just got a dead shark in their pool.
Also kind of funny, having to remove a shark.
No,
who do you call?
That's the better part of the prank.
Now what do I do with it? And just like laughing, walking away.
Yeah, your problem.
Pool sharking.
Sports.
Yeah, it is kind of the boring answer, but it's true. And to be honest, wait, I'll let you answer first, and then I'll say my part.
No, I think I almost want to restrict sports as an answer because it's kind of an obvious choice. Now, I mean, not necessarily, because there's inherent in sports such an element of replayability.
Yeah.
And sports means that you can do hockey, you can do basketball, you can do football. Like there's a wide variety of a lot of different types of games.
Yeah.
But if we're taking sports off the table, it seems like the next most logical choice might be like RPG.
Yeah, I was going to say shooter, actually.
Oh, shooter. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say there because there's replayability inside of that too. If you're playing like Call of Duty or Fortnite or something like that, you can get dropped in and it's a new game. There you go. We can start fresh again. So I just think more of like the actual specific genre stuff, like hard genre stuff, might be the ones that get eliminated. But the other two that came to mind that are just not ours is racing, and fighting.
Racing and fighting, yeah. I think so. Here's the one thing that Devon didn't specify is, I'm assuming games are going to continue to be made. This isn't a desert island scenario.
Yeah, okay, right.
So it's not like you're limited to all that has ever been created up until this point. You're just limiting your types of games that you can play and experience. And if that's the case, then shooter works great because they're going to keep making great shooter games. If that's the case, then I don't know if I would choose sport because I don't really play that many sports games now anyway.
Oh, okay.
Because thinking I used to play NHL all the time, but like the piece of the pie that sports games take up for me now is so thin compared to what I used to play. Ooh. I'd probably go like
thin pie. Pizza pie, thin crust, very nice.
No, thicker crust.
You're like thick crust.
I mean, don't say it like that.
Yeah,
it's medium.
Do you like your slices crisp or floppy?
Floppy.
You like floppy?
Floppy.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like
floppy,
I like my
crust.
pizza like I like my discs.
Floppy.
You
like floppy discs?
Oh, Andrew, I love them. I love how little data they store.
Yeah.
And how cumbersome they are.
It is comical to look back and go, like this is 5 KB.
Have you ever asked someone who's like under 20 what their impression of the save icon is on computers?
Oh no, that's so funny. I've never thought about that.
How would they know?
Yeah, how would they know? But then again, we still, because like I saw someone doing this and I can't tell if these are true or they're set up videos for like TikTok and stuff like that. Like if you have to answer your phone, what do? We obviously do one of these with your pinky and your thumb. And you're like, okay, whatever. And then if you asked a younger person, it'd be just a flat hand to your thing.
Do they do that?
I don't know. So that feels like
no, I think they'd hold it almost like they do like hold it with their pointer and middle finger and your
audio medium.
yeah, just like
I guess so, because the other one that I would be thinking about is rolling down your window.
Oh, and everyone
does the rolling symbol with your hand, but like really, those even for us are kind of older. You know what I mean?
We did grow up with it, and then therefore all of the people in a position who would be driving us around because they had that in their.
Yeah.
What's the equivalent of lexicon but for hand movements?
That's a good question. I don't know. Gesture.
Yeah. Gesticon.
But I'm just saying, like that. I don't think you can get rid of the hand twirling motion because you can't just. I guess people
down? Do that. They go like down.
That's boring.
Yeah. Or they're already just yelling at each other and giving the finger. And it's implied what they want you to do with the window.
shove it up your ass.
Shove it. Yeah, shove the window up your ass. That's uncomfortable. How about this, Andrew?
Yes.
This was not asked by Devin, but
Thank you, Devin.
one game for the rest of your life. What would it be? And it can be a franchise.
Oh, it could be a franchise so I can get many games.
Yeah.
See, if it was one singular game, I swear to God, I think it would be Fortnite. Just because.
Overwatch for me, honestly.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because it resets every time, and it is relatively a new game every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be it. If it's a franchise, then I'm choosing something big and deep and meaty, like your pizza. And I would choose. How can you get away from Mario? Like,
that's a great one. That's a great one.
Like, because then you get all the ancillary stuff. I can race some cars today.
Ooh, do you though? We'd have to go to the judges
just made
on
these
that.
Well, you're the judge.
Andrew, I'm going to need some time to deliberate.
I need to put on my powdered wig.
I need to ask you some cross-examination questions.
Yeah, but
I am also a lawyer.
Well, watch yourself, counselor.
Hold you in contempt.
What would your game be?
Probably Overwatch.
Oh, yeah, Overwatch.
Honestly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, but if it's a franchise, then it would be tough. Zelda, possibly.
Yep.
But Zelda doesn't have the fun element that a Mario franchise has.
Yeah.
Zelda is often a little bit more plotting.
Right.
I think Mario, to give you, like, you got your Mario Odysseys and your Galaxies and then your earlier entries. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be great if I chose like a game I've never played, Final Fantasy.
That was one that I was going to suggest,
Because
actually.
they're long.
Yes, and there's so many of them.
There's so many of them.
And one of them is online.
Also, Final Fantasy? No.
Keep on going.
Yeah, but it would be just so great. I'm like, I've chose this one franchise for the rest of my life in some kind of cursed genie situation. And I'm like, this is it. And I started up and 20 minutes in, I'm like, uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, God.
I don't understand the appreciation for Cloud. I'm not sure who
Why
this
is
dude is.
sword so big?
I don't like this. Yeah. Final Fantasy would be a good choice if you like those sorts of games. But also the franchise has opened up so much that it isn't just turn-based strategy anymore like the originals would have been. So thanks, Devin, for your question. Let's get to another one. This one I found kind of fascinating because it wasn't stemmed initially from a question. It ended up becoming a conversation that wasn't directly asked to us, but was a conversation that I had on Twitter with someone.
On X.
Yeah, what?
On X.
Oh, right. Sorry, X. By the way, people care way too much about this.
I would agree with you.
Yeah. I don't give a fuck what it's called. I
know.
I'm still opening the same app. I'm pressing the thing on my phone and typing out nonsense that no one's going to read. What the fuck do I care?
When they did the update and I saw it was on my phone. It was kind of like getting U2's album on there. I was like, don't change that. You just changed that. What are you doing? And I did go like, the only thing I don't like, there's many things I don't like about it, but it's trying to look cool and that bums me out.
Yeah.
It's just like, fuck, it's black and silver. It's called X.
That's a very Elon Musk's interpretation of what is cool. The funny thing is like, people hate him for a ton of reasons, but he does this. He changes it to X, and they're like, the fucking dumbest son of a bitch in the entire world. I'm like, of all the reasons to hate on Elon Musk, the fact that he called the guys who saved the Chilean kids pedophiles, that's probably number one for me.
We don't talk about that nearly enough.
Not nearly enough.
These guys saved children's lives when we thought, well, they're dead. For sure. We're already making funeral plans for children.
Yes.
Of a Chilean soccer team, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, something like
that. And they saved them, and he's upset because he didn't get to do his plan.
Yeah.
And so he calls them pedophiles online.
Yes. Wild
Stuff. I'm really pumped like the Rockefellers didn't have Twitter at the time or something
that is the other side of it is they're like he's so dumb. I'm like, you give 90% of rich or famous rich people Twitter from any point in history. Your interpretation, like imagine if Howard Hughes had Twitter.
Oh my God.
Can we
actually
give
that would
him
be
Twitter? That would be unbelievable.
It's one of the first things we do when we invent time travel is going like, Howard, here you go. Here's a little showing somebody a phone too would just like
blow their
I think they would jump out a window.
You'd be like, I'm gonna make it out of spruce.
Yes. Let me pee on it. Yeah.
I like the idea that 90% of his tweets are just like him mashing the keyboard because he's furiously cleaning his screen so much. Yeah,
I think it's like I know it's a new popular thing to hate rich people, and you know what? Great. But is that it's not new. It's just we have more access to these people. And so when they say really insane things, you're like, maybe we shouldn't be looking up to these people. It's like, that's not new.
It's been this way for a while.
I think they've just been a little bit more further removed from society.
I think so. Yeah. And now we just get to hear straight from the horse's mouth on Twitter. Okay, so Garrett Emery.
Yes.
I had this conversation on Twitter with this person at Garrett_Emery. I think I retweeted. It was like a mod for Dark Souls, which was like Dark Souls and Tony Hawk Pro Skater crossed over. I think you remember
tagged
this?
me in it.
So his response was, honestly, this kind of made me realize Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was the first franchise to hit me with that one more time addiction like Souls does. I'll explain that a little bit in a little bit. How many times we'd mess up something insanely complex and elaborate combo only to immediately want to try again is very familiar for Souls fans. That was a take that I'd never heard before, which is that feeling of like in Tony Hawk Pro Skater, you have a line and you have to hit the line, and it's not really about getting like doing a kickflip and you're like, okay, now I've done the kickflip. Now my thing is to do the rest of like, this is my save point and I'm going to go do the rest of the thing. It's like, you have to do everything perfectly. One line, you got to do this level and you've got 3 minutes and you got to collect everything, whatever it is. Dark Souls is very similar where it's like, you go as far as you can, you die and you're like, fuck, how do I kickflip over this rail? How do I kill this enemy who's now double teaming me? And applying everything you've learned from past efforts, past runs, and getting your way through. I found that like a very good comparison, a very apt comparison. But further to that was, what was the first game you remember being addicted to? Like to the point where it wasn't fun? And where do you draw the line between obsession and addiction? Do you remember the first game you were addicted to?
Yeah, it's going to be Super Mario. Like unfortunately I've already said it, but it's kind of been on top of mind because you'd be playing it and you'd be playing it and you'd be playing it and you're dying and you're dying and you're dying. And you're like, it was to the point that you just wanted to break a controller.
Yeah.
And I was a child. And so I was very weak and I couldn't do that. Also back in the day, it was really hard plastic. Now they break so easily. Yeah, that was definitely one of them. And then I would say the point it wasn't fun anymore is Madden. Because it's funny, it's come up this many times. Happy Madden Day, everybody. Is that I was playing it so much that I did burn out on the franchise. Sure. And I would play it backwards and forwards and then eventually stop playing it because I was like, holy God, this is bad. Like, I'm not even enjoying this game anymore. Yeah. Are you going to bring up Overwatch?
I am, but that definitely wasn't the first. Okay. The first one. Definitely the worst though. 100% the worst. Yes. I did have that experience, the Madden experience with the NHL franchise. Okay. Where it got to the point where I'd be playing on the hardest difficulty or playing online, and I realized it was such a gamble because you're supposed to lose 50% of the matches that you play in. That's how online matchmaking works. You know, maybe 51-40, something like that. But in a perfect situation, you're matched up with people your equal skill level. It's a 50-50 thing. And I found that coin flip of like, do I gamble my emotional currency on winning or losing because I was getting so upset every time I'd lost. It wasn't about having fun while I was playing. It was about the satisfaction of having won as opposed to like the experience of just enjoying the game. So that was a recognition that you could have that in a game. But honestly, even with Mario, there was a difference because beating a level was required to progress the game. So it still felt very similar to every other game that I had played before. Okay. I was obsessed with trying to finish it, but I don't know if I was addicted in that way. It was, I think, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater that was the first time where it's like, I have progressed the story. I am on the next level. I've got the unlockables. But that secret videotape or that skate or that line, going back and doing it in a level that I didn't enjoy and doing a task that I disliked just because I had to see that box checked off. Right. That was addiction in video games as opposed to an obsession with trying to complete a level or something like that.
Oh, that makes total sense. Yeah. Tony Hawk definitely is one of them. I just didn't want to bring up because Devin? No.
No, that's Garrett Emery.
Garrett. Yeah. The Garrett brought it up, but it's so true. Yeah. I will say that also why Tony Hawk is very ridiculous and over the top and, you know, nothing like real skateboarding. In the way it is like real skateboarding is you can kind of stand there and like look around and start going like, do you think I could do this whole rail? Yeah. And you're like looking at it, you're like, I'm going to try this. And you're like, which is what I imagine real skateboarding is like. It's like, do you think I can jump over that? Like, yeah, I'm going to try.
That's what Uma Thurman's character said in Pulp Fiction.
Do you think I do that whole rail?
And she did. And she had to get stabbed in the heart because of it.
With adrenaline.
With adrenaline. Very cool.
Very cool. Very burned into my brain from a very young age, that scene.
No, but in terms of actually, like in my adult life, recognizing an addiction to the point where it was affecting my day-to-day, like being addicted to an element of a video game, you know, the Tony Hawk thing rings true. Yep. Because it was like, I could have just walked away. You know that feeling you get of like that pit in your stomach of like, I cannot walk away. I have to do this. Yeah. I had that in Tony Hawk, but it wasn't like I was neglecting my daily duties. Granted, I didn't have as many daily duties when I was a kid playing Tony Hawk.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had one daily duty.
I had one daily duty
in the morning after your cup of coffee.
After my cup of coffee, and my mom would clean my diaper. Yes, I was drinking coffee back then.
reading the stocks, having a coffee, pooping your diaper.
Mom's cleaning it. It's great. But Overwatch was this thing where I realized it would almost be like I would finish a day of work or something like that. Or even at its worst, I would on my lunch break be like, I've got time for like a quick game. If I was working from home or something, I'm like, I got a time for a quick game. And then all of a sudden 2.5 hours had gone by and I was just playing Overwatch and I was like, oh fuck. And the feeling of like sickness when you come to and you're like, what the fuck did I just do? How did I let this happen again? I told myself the last time I'd never let it happen again. And I was like, do I need to uninstall this from my hard drive?
Yeah.
Like that feeling of like, this thing has a hold on me that I cannot escape was almost scary in a weird way.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of happy that I'm on the other side of it.
Good for you.
I haven't played Overwatch in forever. I liked having a healthy relationship to it, but I just felt like I wasn't getting much out of it towards the end.
Do you think it also helped that they changed the game? And you're like, yeah.
I often wonder if them changing the game from Overwatch to Overwatch 2 was as bad as I think it is.
Yeah.
Because of the change to tank and the 5v5 and all that. Or if I just use the change as enough of an excuse to be like, I'm either in or out. I have to relearn everything. I can say I dislike it and that'll give my mind an excuse to break ways with this game. Or if I actually disliked it and that's what caused me to step away from it. I don't know.
It's so funny. There used to be a podcast called The Indoor Kids, which was Camille Nanjiani and Emily V. Gordon. And I always have this one memory of them saying like when a file got corrupted and you're like, what am I doing this for? Like you kind of realize you're having to redo it. Should be fun, right? And you're like, no, this sucks. I hate doing this. And the one that I always think about that they mentioned is when the screen goes black and you can see your reflection in the TV, especially on old TVs that had glass.
Yes.
You're like, oh boy. Like it's just the saddest look in the world. Like
it's when you can see yourself through the Netflix. Like, are you still watching?
Oh yeah. Oh God. Isn't that the worst?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you still watching? Fuck yes. Oh, God.
Unfortunately, yes.
I'm sorry.
One more season of The Office. So that's a great question.
Great question.
The idea in terms of like defining addiction, the idea of doing something that you don't want to do just to see the box checked off and continually doing it. I think that's kind of like, that's what drives me an addiction to video games.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Garrett.
Yeah, thanks. Grant from New York.
Okay. New York. Hey, I'm walking in.
I'm asking questions
pizza.
Here. Oh, floppy pizza.
I'll get you a wet floppy pizza, extra thick crust, Mikey edition.
Did you hear about the video game controller, the Xbox controller that smells like pizza?
Mikey, I did.
Yeah.
And I think God stays in heaven because he's afraid of what he's created. No, I looked at him like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's honestly, they're clearly putting a big marketing push behind Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It seems like every movie company is just looking at what Barbie did and they're like, oh, we can just pre-sell the movie basically. Like just be this. Yeah.
How do people get excited for this? I will say, not for 1 second did I watch that video and go, no way that smells good.
Yeah.
No way that actually smells like pizza. Or you're like, pizza.
Yes.
It's probably like, ugh.
Yeah. And just like, and then you like kind of laugh and shove it in your friend's face or something like
that.
Yes,
that's
the extent of owning that thing. Cause especially it looks so cumbersome. It goes like on the back of the battery pack and there's this giant fucking pizza on top of it.
Sorry. Do people know what we're talking about? There's a pizza edition that you slide onto the back of the controller that is shaped like a big pizza pie.
Yeah.
And it sprays out, like diffuses a pizza scent.
Fucking wild.
Weird. Who's asking for this?
Like, you got to assume that's going straight to a landfill for so many people.
Because that's what I was thinking is like, I got it. This is awesome. Okay. And just like taking it off and then like putting it away. I will say we are talking about it and immediately knew what we were talking about. Yes. So good for them. Good for them.
It's great. Yeah. Big L for the environment. Big W for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
We're going to really make some mutant turtles with this development.
Yeah. Could you, the irony. If that did mutinize turtles.
Yeah. And as
something about that compound.
Yes. As they enslave humanity and commit genocide on the human race, we're like, where'd you guys like rad skateboarders and not mutant turtles? A lack of Splinter. That's probably what.
That's it.
Yeah.
Keeping on the straight and narrow.
That's what I'd say.
Grant from New York.
Yes.
New York. Look at you. Says.
Sorry.
Start spreading the questions.
Sorry, Garrett.
Two-part question for two big boys.
Ooh,
I
very
don't like
nice.
that. Can games get to a point where they are too big, or does the increase in size only lead to preferential taste changes? Part two, what open world game would you make linear if you could?
That's really interesting. Okay. I know what you're going to say.
I think, no, I'm not going to say what I think you think I'm going to say.
My guess for what you'd say is yes, games can be too big. Really? You're not going to say that?
I'm not.
Whoa.
Here's my knee-jerk reaction is to say that. My actual thought on it is the inherently
all right. Okay.
is stroke. I'm Mitch McConnell hard there.
It's too bad that you drank that pizza scent. Yeah, Mitch McConnell. Okay, actual stroke or pooped himself?
Can't it be both, Andrew?
One than the other, I guess. Now that I think about it, yeah, you're right.
Wait, which one came first? Do you think?
He was so upset about pooping himself. He had a stroke. I like how we both went there so fast. It's not the other way around. You have a stroke and you poop yourself, which understandable. And I think, you've lost control. He's so embarrassed about pooping himself. Like, oh boy.
I like the idea that he had like an entire realization of the fact that he is a certified ghoul.
Yes.
By shitting publicly. And it just made him rethink everything. His brain recircuited.
Like, usually you have to go like, I hope he's okay. I don't care. Mitch McConnell's a monster. But I do. If it is straight up just pooping himself, it is easily one of the funniest things that's ever happened in public. Like the way his face just goes so blank, going like, it's almost like you can hear the Wonder Years narration over his brain. Like, it happened. My biggest fear has finally come true on national television. U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell, have shit myself on live television. Oh, God.
Oh, man.
Oh,
you gotta laugh.
Oh, you gotta laugh. At Mitch McConnell. Yes, of course. Yeah.
The guy who perpetually looks like Dana Carvey playing the turtle disguise in Master of Disguise.
When we get mutant turtles, it's going to look something like Mitch McConnell. It's because Mitch McConnell probably had sex with one of his turtle people. His co-turtles.
And that's what made him look the way he looks?
Yeah, that doesn't make you much sense now.
No, not really.
Okay, give me a sec.
I mean, the story... Oh, shit, Andrew's frozen. Andrew, Andrew, what does that smell? Oh, God, Andrew, what does that stink? What is that stench?
It's the pizza controller. Okay. I'm so sorry, Garrett. I feel like the second your name came up...
That's not Garrett. This is Grant. This is Grant from New York.
I'm sorry, Grant. The second you came up, we're like, well... Let's talk about everything else. Sorry, Grant.
Can games too big was Grant's.
Can games too big. You got it, Mikey. Oh no. Oh God, Mikey. Oh God.
Oh fuck.
That was great. So you don't think games can be too big?
Can games too big? So okay. In actuality, I think time has proven that the bigger the game, the more likely it is that the ball can be dropped somewhere. However, theoretically, I don't think that a game getting bigger necessarily makes it worse. Theoretically, the biggest game in the world can be the best game in the world. But what happens when you make a game bigger is you make your game more susceptible to bloat, more susceptible to side missions that aren't actually fun, more susceptible to traversal that might get repetitive.
Yeah.
Getting from the chunky points in Mitch McConnell's underwear.
Oh, nice.
Getting to the chunky points of core gameplay, trudging from one to the next might make it just a little bit more difficult, make you realize that you're in a game a little bit more often. However, if you perfect that art of the journey, like Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom has, Death Stranding, perhaps, if you incorporate it into the game, and if there's no bloat and if everything is polished, then sure, I can imagine a game that is incredibly big being incredibly good.
Yeah.
However, more often than not, you've inflated it to the point where you need to insert material that will make the game flow a little bit better. Filler. Yeah, yes. Exactly.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think theoretically, no, games can be bigger. I think unfortunately it's been used as a way of saying, look how, it's like a bragging point.
A selling point, yeah.
100%, even though it's not made of quality.
Yes.
I do think we will eventually get to a point with video games where we kind of settle on the right size and right length of time for the game. Like we will eventually, like movies did one day where they went around 2 hours. Are we going to just use 2 hours as a barometer? Okay, that makes sense. We will find eventually going like 60 hours. Is 60 hours the thing? Okay, we're going to work around that.
Do you think we're going to get to the point where, because it already is kind of happening, and I wonder what direction we're going to take, but do you think we're going to get to the point where most games incorporate an open world?
Yes, because
Street Fighter just fucking did it
exactly.
Recently, yeah.
Like if you go play 2K, the playground is an open world. Like that's weird. Why would a basketball game have an open world? But you know, it has been seen as. The other one too is there are so many advertisements in games now too. They just want you to spend time with the game. It's kind of like website developers or app developers. They just want you to spend time on that thing. Yeah. Even if you're not actually playing
Stay
the
in
game.
the ecosystem.
100%. That's good for them. So yes, an open world is an easy way to get people to do it.
It seems like it. I worry that it seems like this thing that we all think that we want, like 3D or whatever, because they're like, well, it's more technology, it's more freedom, it's you can go do whatever you want. But
you guys wouldn't shut up about this pizza controller. You want smelly controllers? Here you are.
Controllers. Here's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Here's Mitch McConnell's pants.
He is a smelly controller.
He is. Hey, Andrew.
Guys.
We found it.
We did. We got it. Podcast over.
Button on the episode. The problem I find with it is, you know, when we had books and then let's take it back there. We had books and then we're like, you know, we can add moving pictures to this.
Yeah.
And they're like, great, let's do it. It's not like books became the expansion, became movies. Books still existed as books. So a game that is linear in its purpose and specific in its design, I don't think has to necessarily incorporate the technology of an open world just because that seems to be some necessary progression.
Right.
I just don't think it is.
It might be just a fad. Like it also like in 10 years we might be moved on to something else.
Yeah.
I would say only the secret to open world games though that are fun to play as big as they get, traversal has to be fun.
That's very true.
If it's not fun, then I actually resent the game for being big because I'm like, oh god damn it.
I also think that like traversal's massive, and I think like you enjoy the traversal in Breath of the Wild.
Oh yeah, but as we said on the episode too, it's like that's kind of the point of the game.
It is. Yeah, I think that is almost like in a sports game. If movement on the field isn't good, then the game isn't going to be good. Like if movement around the map isn't good, then the game itself isn't going to be good. The problem I find with this necessitation of making your games open world often is that it isn't just that the game exists now in an open world. It's that the game is trying to be everything. The game is trying to have like say you have a linear story and the game opens up to incorporate an open world. They're like, well, what can we do over here? Well, here's a game that you can play that isn't necessarily good, but like it's just something you can do, or like you can go play poker over here, or like some bad fishing quests over here, or
just some hypothetical game that you're talking about. Yeah.
Like things that aren't necessarily fun, but just exist as like a proof of concept almost.
Right.
But like, I don't think every movie has to be everything. Yeah. Everywhere all at once.
Yes, it doesn't have to be like, and where's the fight scene in this drama?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, well, it doesn't have to have
just do one thing, kind of be a little bit more. And that's why these indie games that I've been playing, I've been saying it forever, are way more interesting to me nowadays.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. Like, I think you want to hear somebody that has an opinion and then is able to portray that. I think what we get lost is when it's like very generic and just draws itself back to the middle, and which is a lot of these AAA games now. Like, you know, I'm not gonna. Well, I was gonna say Assassin's Creed, but you know, whatever.
Okay, so here's the next part of the question was if you had an open world game that you would turn linear, what would it be? And I got thinking about Assassin's Creed because you know the original Assassin's Creed 1 wasn't open world, and I don't think that would be it for me, just because the gameplay itself isn't. It doesn't really interest me all that much. But it got me asking the question: Assassin's Creed without being in an open world, is it kind of just Uncharted with guns? Without guns?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, kind of, right?
Because like Uncharted is a great example of like they very well could have made that an open world. They could have opened it all up and it could have been this sprawling, like you go to the train station and find yourself over here and climb this mountain.
Drive to this. And
And if they did that, I don't know that it would have worked. I love the fact that it's narratively driven. It's tight. You're kind of on your courses. You can stray a little bit for some exploration elements, but you never have to like run across the map for something that you forgot.
Yeah. And Uncharted. You know what's so funny too? When you said Uncharted, I'm like, That's open world. Oh, it's not.
Right.
So like it kind of gives you the sense that you can do what you want,
Yes.
but you're penned in. Assassin's Creed is a really good choice because I was thinking about the Roman one,
Sure.
which was one I didn't really enjoy. I quite liked the
Black Flag.
Black Flag was great, but the Nordic one was good too. The
Valhalla.
Valhalla.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Keep going. Asgard. Valhalla. Yeah, that was really, really good. But the Roman was just like very half baked. And so and it felt like you're like, we're making an open world because you like that, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you didn't have something behind this.
Sure.
So, whereas in Valhalla, like you can take the boats around and you felt like a Viking. Which was
100%.
really good. Yeah.
And I look at a game like The Witcher. You never played The Witcher.
A little
franchise,
bit.
right? Yeah. Witcher 3 went to a flat out open world. And went to an open world. Andrew, very well done.
Thank you very much. That's what they paid me for.
That's who's paying you?
You're not getting paid?
Am I supposed to be receiving money?
Elliot? Who?
I'm not pulling my side of the bar. What are you talking about?
Yeah, hell yeah. I like Elliot.
I'm the winner.
You're the winner of what?
The video
you were
games.
playing for money?
I thought we were.
That would be a devastating thing to happen to our friendship. That we're like, if we kept a record too, that would have been bad.
That would have been very bad.
Yeah, because it's been like,
I would have quit. I think
151 and 273. Andrew's coming up minus $2,000. Here we go. What playing Metal Gear Solid? I mean, Twisted Metal, and I'm like, oh no.
Twisted Metal Gear Solid.
Very good.
Before and after the Witcher, and we have to be careful as well when you define open world that, how big is the world? Is the world just the map? Like even in Assassin's Creed, a quote unquote open world game nowadays, you can't get to the whole world. No. So it is the game world being open and you being able to go from place to place.
Okay, yeah.
So you can really use that to broadly define something that other people might not consider to be open world. But in The Witcher 2, you would be dropped in these map areas that were kind of segmented.
Okay.
So you couldn't get from one place to another end of The Witcher's world. But in The Witcher 3, you could basically go anywhere across the map at any point. There were things that would open up, but the world was much bigger and much more fleshed out. And I actually didn't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like how much traversal there was because I just found myself like it was a little bit dull getting from some points that, like we talked about, had that element of bloat to it. You know?
No, that's fair. And then you see games that like go back and forth a little bit, like Tony Hawk. They tried to introduce that like open world element. They're like, let's go back to levels. And I think that works way better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say, I think one game that I played recently that I would define as an open world that I think would have been better not is God of War Ragnarok.
Interesting.
There were several times in that game because there is a fast travel mechanic, but it's like you got to get to a waypoint, and sometimes the waypoints are really far apart. You have these like nodes that put you in these other levels, but because the game is just like, go off and explore wherever you want right now, it just felt like this weird, I keep saying the word filler, but it felt like these moments where it's like, the story's over here. We've hidden some shit back this area, and you've got a new unlockable. So, like, I guess go explore there if you want.
That's a really good example because I didn't even think about that. But like the fast travel, and then you have to run through the tree, and you're like, "What?" Every time I did it, I was like, "Why do I have to do this?"
Yeah. Well, because it's loading on the other side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even if it's 30 seconds, I'm like, "This just is filler."
And also like the number of times where I'm like, I wonder if I'm missing something. So I would go back somewhere. It would be like 15, 20 minutes to get to the point that I wanted to go to. I'd get there and realize that I still couldn't unlock this thing. Like I saw something like when I unlocked the drop near spear or whatever. And I remember seeing like one of those glowing things that you could shoot them into back in Freya's brother's camp. Okay. So I went back there and that was like a long journey to get to. And I got there and it was like, well, you don't have the exact angle to throw the spear in here. So you can't do it. And then it took a story beat to just be like, now you arbitrarily can go there. And I was like, well, that's so stupid. If you're going to open up the world and then just arbitrarily unlock and lock things, like, I don't like that.
Wait, okay, but that's another one. Is it filler then when you have to go through a level once and you see something you can't access because you don't have powers to or something like that, and that it requires you to come back to that level later? Is that?
Not necessarily, but I do think that it's not as exciting as people say. Like, that's a very Metroidvania thing. But that's also like the story beat is on the other side of the thing you have to go back and explore. If there's an unlockable that's just like experience points or a set of armor, and the only way I can get it is by walking back to a place that I'd already been because I unlocked something, I think that's kind of lazy sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a satisfaction in it, like, oh, I can do the thing. I saw that and now I can do it. But at the end of the day, I find it kind of a waste of time.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I just don't know if that's like artificially lengthening something.
I think
for the
it
sake
is.
of doing it. Yeah.
And I think it's very specifically just kind of forcing you to go back on a journey and repeat something just because it wants you to spend more time in the world, like you said, just like up your play time. It's not necessarily fun to walk back to this area and check and see if you can do something.
Right.
If the purpose of going back is to continue the story, then that's fine because the story progresses there. But when I'm supposed to go one way and I'm weirdly rewarded for just backtracking for no reason, a place that I've already seen, things that I've already done, but now I've got like a key, I don't love that.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Yep.
Well, that's I think it for today's episode, Andrew.
Wow.
In terms of the number of questions we have, we still have a few that we haven't gotten to. Maybe we'll do this once a month or so if people keep sending in questions. So if there are questions that you want us to get to, you want a little bit of a shout out on the podcast, make sure, by the way, because not everyone does this, if you're sending an email, let us know whether you want us to say your full name or not. We've been usually just saying name and last initial if there is one. If you're on social media, we'll do the @. Most of the questions have been coming through our email address.
If you don't want to use your name, you have to come up with a creative alias, possibly from video games.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes.
My name is Mario.
Oh, what's that game from? What game is that from?
It's from Mafia 2.
Oh, there's a Mario in Mafia 2?
Uncle Mario.
Look at us here in New York City eating floppy pizza.
Next to Grant.
Hey, thanks so much for all the submissions. We love every single one of you. And we can't wait to talk to you soon. My name is Andrew Bascom. With me, as always, is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself,
Mikey Aaronworth.
This is the Retrograde Podcast.
Game over. Stop spreading the news.
Furnished by Sad Styles Productions.
I identify as a biter, a legal biter.